Hi, everybody. Christy Giannoni back in week 8, our last week of our public personnel management course. And for this multimedia discussion, we're taking a look at employee privacy and an employer's right to know. There's a couple videos that we could take a look at. The one that I chose to focus on was the last video, which talked about the idea of tracking employees with some sort of GPS device. That would be, for the example of the video, it was something with a smartphone. There's a lot of other ways that employers can track depending on the type of software or equipment that they're providing to their employees. And I thought this was really relevant with all the new technology that we are providing to our workforce as we do some more work from home during the pandemic. So the first thing I wanted to focus on was, the necessary or legitimate business purposes for tracking employers. And so this can be tracking GPSs in all of our city vehicles. This is something that my city does, and we do this for city liability purposes as well as budget measurements. When we're taking a look at our fiscal year budget, we're able to pull the data from those GPS trackers and see, the mileage on the cars, the wear and tear, and then also for city liability purposes, if we had an accident or something happen, we're able to locate exactly where the vehicle is. This does also assist if the vehicle is stolen. And so oftentimes we also use tracking not on vehicles with GPS purposes, but of computers and the internet searches or files that employees are going to. We're able to have our IT pull that information for employee investigations. So we had an employee investigation where somebody was looking into confidential records of other employees because they were dating the individual and they still could not access that information, and they were doing so to get more information on them. So where employers have legitimate business purposes for such monitors, it's still best practice to disclose the monitoring to employees in a handbook, memo, something that they're signing basically. So this can be done at orientation, at the conception and implementation of a new policy, but that is the best practice to make sure that they are giving that expectation up front. Many employers have policies stating that workers don't have an expectation of privacy when they're using company resources such as computers, phones, email programs, and this type of policy is usually permissible in California, but employers must be aware of the state's stringent privacy rules that afford more protection to employees than federal statutes do. So California typically has more rights and is very employee friendly, and that includes the California Constitution, which identifies certain rights for citizens, including pursuing and obtaining safety, happiness, and privacy. And so employees in the state are covered by various statutes that protect their privacy. There's a California Labor Code that says that employees can't be, demoted, suspended, or fired for engaging in lawful conduct during off-duty hours. So something that applies more to the first video of the teacher that got fired for posting some pictures on her social media, but can also be applicable to this video where somebody was being tracked for off-duty hours. And so it's kind of interesting, that idea of off the clock and checking on someone's location or utilizing these GPS services for legitimate use cases versus civil rights abuse. And so there's a lot of California employee protections, and there's a lot more coming down the pike for privacy. So Assembly Bill 25 was implemented in 2019 by Governor Newsom, and this expanded rights to privacy for new employees, candidates who are wanting to work for an agency, and contract employers as well. So I think there's a lot more protections coming down the line, and like number 3 says, that's evolving with the new technology that we have. I think this is going to be an ongoing issue that we're going to see. Again, like I stated, for those of us who have the ability to work from home and they're taking more equipment home, that are possibly having more flexible work hours. That was something that we did during the pandemic. We were able to give individuals new work schedules so they could adjust to help their kids when they had to, help them with homework because they had their kids working from home or doing their homework from home in school. And so that kind of adjusted their schedule so they were, putting in work hours after the kids had gone to bed. And so how can we really track without knowing those schedules? And so it's a very interesting concept. And it reminded me a lot of early theorist Leonard White and kind of that intro to the study of public administration about how the objective of public administration is the most efficient utilization of resources. And so that can be, is the individual utilizing their city cell phone for something inappropriate, not work related, or they're using their city vehicle for those purposes. So there is some consistency of operations that has to be done, and public employers are always going to be in the more scrutinized for their use of what they're doing, because there's always that perception that it's taxpayers' money that's being utilized for these certain ways. So I think just being upfront with employees, that disclosure. There's a great training on employers' public roles and responsibility for public civil servants, and something like that can really help to have people understanding. But I think it's a disservice for an organization if we don't have that disclosure to our employees up front, because how can you discipline or punish somebody when they weren't made aware of those expectations? All right. Well, thank you all for listening to each of my week's presentations. I'm reminded of Isaiah 6:8. This is really calling to me about what it means to be a public service, and we're all doing such great work. And I hope that everybody who's taken this course has a little bit more appreciation for us human resources folks and all of the different elements of our position. But it's been great working with all of you and seeing your presentations as well. So blessings to the rest of your CBU career for however long you have. And I hope to see some of you in my other classes.